Thanks for having me, Doug. And for all you gentlemen, thank you so much for giving your time to be here. Because if there's anything that means more to us than the dollar, it's our time. And you guys have taken the initiative to be here. I don't know how many are here. Great turnout from what I can see. But what I'd like to do is not only use this, it's a great tool. I'm going to set it here for a second. I like what Tim had to say. Dave, I love you, brother. First time I get a chance to really rub shoulders with Dave tonight. And doesn't that feel good to get together as a group of men, rub shoulders, pray for one another, get excited? For what? What are we getting excited about? Okay, I'm here with the mic, and maybe I do have a little bit of a talent, but as Tim says, I put my pants on just like you do. I'm not any different. The only difference is God has put me in a position where I can use what little bit of talent or gifts for Him. It took my wife to teach me that, by the way. Even though I was a competitor in the sport of fly fishing, I could have easily taken this sport and used it for my glory. And my wife says, no, you don't, because God speaks through her. How many of you gentlemen are married? You have your better halves at home, right? I hope when you go home tonight, you will treat her a little different than when you left home. And I'm going to say that in a positive way. Because without my wife, guys, I could not do what I do. She completes me. And that's one thing God has helped me to realize over those years in my life, and it's 56 of them. Now, how do you put 56 years in 10 minutes? I don't know how, but I'm going to try. But she said to me at one point, you need to take what God has given you and use it for His glory and not your own. And I know there are many of you in this audience right now that are very talented and gifted. I don't care if you're a police officer that's retired. You have something that we all value. It's time. And if you take that time and use those gifts that God has given you, you can be a very powerful instrument, whether it's in a youngster's life or in another man's life, which is what happened to me. I started out as a youngster, didn't have what you would call a present dad. I had a father, but I had an absent father. He worked on riverboats 2 weeks away from home, and he would come home for 5 days. And guess what he thought was his time, his 5 days? He thought were his time. So he hunted and fished. And if I wanted to spend time with my dad, I needed to grab a rod or a shotgun or a .22 and join him in his activities. Over a period of time, guys, here's something that came about that I didn't really value at that point. I didn't realize how much there was to it until later. And that was my performance determined who I was. I know none of you have ever been there, but here's what it was for me. I had to go hunting and fishing with my dad, my uncles, and some of my cousins and brothers. And in order for me to be recognized, I had to do well, or I was just a tag along, and I got to take care of feeding the dogs and hauling the guns back and forth in the vehicle, making sure that I had the night crawlers picked the night before so we could go fishing. That was my responsibility. And as time went on, of course, I got out of high school. My dad said, okay, son, it's time for you to go to work. So my first job, real job, aside from scooping ice cream for Baskin & Robbins and delivering newspapers, was I was a deckhand on a riverboat. 3 years later, I was a captain on a riverboat, and I did that for 13 years. David, much like the language that you had acquired, I could probably match you, because there's nothing odd about speaking like a sailor. They use other words, I think. But that was my vocabulary. I had a limited education, but I started working on the riverboats. And you know, one thing I wanted more than anything is I wanted to be a man. Now, what does that look like? I'm on a riverboat. I have my first paying job. My dad's my boss, and I look up to my dad, just like I did when I was doing the other activities. Whoa, that was tough. And you got to understand something. At that point, I'm 18 years old. 1 year prior to that, I had walked forward to an altar and had given my life over to Jesus Christ. Now, what does that look like? Now I'm going to be following these guys on a riverboat, and I just accepted Christ less than a year ago. So now, the library wasn't very good. And I can tell you that I was challenged from the time I was 18 to 22. At 22, my soon-to-be wife, fiancée, was in a hotel room with one of the gentlemen I worked with. Now, that wasn't appropriate in my mind, so I had to drop that. And as time went on, I said I'd never get married because I could never trust a woman. And then this young lady comes into the picture, and next thing you know, 9 months later, we're married. So I'm going to fast forward real quick. Marriage in your life is a wonderful thing. Until 10 years into it, your wife says, I think we need to go to some marriage conference. So what? A marriage conference? Why? Our marriage is doing great. I mean, I'm playing softball in 2 leagues. I'm golfing in 2 leagues. I'm hunting. I'm fishing. And I think I had time for something else in there. I don't remember what it was. But anyways, oh, that's right. I was married and I had 2 kids. A marriage conference? Okay, when is this marriage conference? She says it's October 3rd. That was back in 1989. Gentlemen, I wanted to be a man so bad, I just stepped up and I said, no way, we're not going to this conference. That was it. Well, at the conference, guys, I learned some valuable lessons. One was, more important than anything, I understood who I was. I mean, I had a purpose. I didn't know why my feet were on the ground in Pennsylvania. As you can tell, I talk a little different than you all. I bet I've been in Arkansas for 20 years. My feet were placed there for a reason. I didn't know what it was. There was a purpose. And there was one more thing that really stuck with me. It was more than anything, and this is something I want you guys to get. I don't care what age you are. Remember, we're all men. The heritage. A heritage. What is that? I never understood what that was. But it was something I was going to leave after I'm gone. That legacy we hear about frequently. Okay, now I understand my purpose, and I want to leave a godly legacy. So how do I begin that process? I had to become unselfish. So as time went on, I said, okay, now what do you want me to do? And I'm speaking to God. I don't know if any of you have that opportunity to just ask the question, okay, God, what do you want me to do next? I did that. I left Pennsylvania, moved to Arkansas to join an organization so that I could be a part of a ministry to reach families. That's why I'm here. So what did I do? I gave up all those activities that I enjoyed doing, the hunting, the fishing, the golf, the bowling, softball, to join a ministry. Now I'm going to be a missionary. What does that mean? A missionary. I thought I was going to have a dirt floor hut that I'd be living in. Well, it turned out that there are houses in Arkansas. I didn't even know where it was on the map until I looked. So I'm in Arkansas. I'm a so-called missionary. And guys, I was willing to give up the fishing, the hunting, as I said. I was going to sell all my fly rods. And here's what God did. He said, no, don't get rid of them yet. In 1992, do you remember what happened on the Little Red River? In May of 1992, world record brown trout, 40 pounds, 4 ounces. Somebody sent me that in the mail, and I was about ready to move to Arkansas. I said, whoa, there's trout in Arkansas? It's too hot down there. I'd never thought there would be trout down there. It's just too warm for them. Well, I didn't sell the fly rods, and I came down, and after a period of time here, 2 gentlemen approached me who were the directors for the ESPN fly fishing competition and said, hey, we want you to compete in this fly fishing competition with 11 others from around the world. I said, why me? Well, we've watched you fish, and we haven't seen anybody that's any better. Well, I denied that, of course. It's not true. But, I'm not going to get into competitions with fishing. It's something I enjoy doing. So I told him no. And he approached me again a couple months later, and I still said no. And finally somebody approached me and said, and it was my pastor in Little Rock, he said, "Oh, wait a second. You're one of 12? Of all the people that could compete in this in the world, you're one of 12? He says, "You're already a winner." Remember that performance thing? If I thought I was going to lose, I wouldn't do it. That was my reservation. So what God did at that point is he changed my way of thinking and helped me to say, okay, I will do that. And because of that, I competed in the games and was gold medalist in 2001, bronze medalist in 2002. Almost broke a world record in the cast. Came up 6 feet shy. And competed in other competitions. And God has blessed me to the point where I can stand before other men and help other young men understand a very key point. It's called manhood. What does it mean to be a man? Gentlemen, I've learned something with this rod that I hope you walk away with. It's just a little visual. I'm going to speak loud enough. I don't need the mic. I'm going to speak loud enough because I want you to understand something. It's not about medals. It's not about how many fish you catch. It's not about the biggest fish you catch. I want you to think of something. And it was mentioned here several times tonight. Jay, you did it. It's called Spirit-Filled Life. If I want to be in control of my life, this is what it's going to look like. Hold on, gentlemen. I've got a plan out here that I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do it. I am going to do it because I've got muscles. Ready? Here we go. We're going to hit the other wall over there. You saw it. I can do it out there, right? Yeah. Here we go. Get that thing out there! Oh. Well, I did a good job, didn't I? Got a sore arm, my kind of hoarse. Guys, that's my life. Whew. I'm working hard at it, trying to win all the time. Performance, until I found out one key point. It's not about me. It's not about me. Gentlemen, one thing I learned, not only through that conference, but through that path, that journey that God has taken me through manhood, and I'm not done yet, is I know who I am, and I know who I'm not. I'm Chuck Farneth, and I'm not a fan.